republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Roll call, Mrs. Cropper from executive session.
Ms. Sanborn?
Present.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Present.
Mr. Waldman?
Present.
Mr. Lewis?
Present.
Motion carried. Swearing in a newly appointed board member, Mrs. Cropper.
Mr. Banshees, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully, to the best of your abilities, perform the duties of a member of the Board of Education of the West Claremont Local School District, Claremont County, Ohio, and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereinafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mrs. Cropper, do we have any public comments this evening?
I have no cards.
Thank you. Approval of minutes, Mrs. Cropper?
You have one set of minutes in your packet, and those are the meetings from our last regular meeting, which was held August 11th. I respectfully request that you approve those minutes as presented.
You've heard the recommendation from Mrs. Cropper. Do we have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
We have motion, second, discussion? Roll call, Mrs. Cropper?
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Waldman?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn?
Yes.
Mr. Banches?
I'll abstain as I was not a member at that time.
Treasurer's business, Mrs. Cropper?
The next item under the treasurer's agenda are the financial statements, bills paid list, and investments for the month and the fiscal year to date ended July 31st, 2014. So this is the first month of fiscal year 15. So, and as you can see from your financial statements, it is starting out with a bang. That's certainly the largest balance I have ever brought to this board in the past decade. And I know you're getting tired of me stating every meeting that things, the financial picture just gets better and better. So if you look at your financial statements, you'll see the general fund had an unencumbered fund balance of just under $17.8 million, and the district overall had a fund balance of $30.4 million. Calling your attention to the second page of your financial statements, you see the month to date, and you can see that during the month of July, we got over $15 million in advances from our real estate taxes. So this is a very high cash flow month as expected, and while we're absolutely excited about the size of the balance in the general fund at this point in time, please remember that the property taxes come in 2 installments, and this $15 million is going to have to hold this till next January when we get our second large installment of property taxes. Going back to the $15 million, this is advances. The county auditor collects the taxes, and before they get all the calculations done to know which amount goes to which political subdivision, based upon past year's trends, they start handing out the money, what they call advances, so that we can get it, we can start earning interest on it. As low as the interest rates are, it's certainly better interest earned by West Claremont than left in the county coffers.
So that's not considered to be borrowed money. That's
No.
an advancement of the money that we're entitled to.
Yes, it's an advancement of the money that we're entitled to, and it goes back to the political subdivision saying, yes, while you may be the collection agency, we do pay you a fee for that service, and we want our money as soon as you can get it to us. And as you can tell in years past, when interest rates were certainly higher, it makes a big difference as to whether or not we have $15 million for a month versus the county. Of course, interest rates aren't what they used to be. but still every little bit helps, and we will take every little bit we have coming in. This is not the final settlement. We will get a little bit more during the month of August until the county actually gets all the accounting done. But this is the bulk of it. As you can see, we estimate to get about $17 million, so we've certainly gotten the bulk of what we expect to get from the county for the fall collection period. Looking at expenditures for the month of July, you can see they're right at $4.7 million, right where we'd expect them to be, and no surprises this month in the financial statements. So cash flow as expected, balance where we would thought it would be. As you know, your third page there just presents the general fund expenditures by functional area in case you'd rather look at them in that format. That said, I respectfully request that you acknowledge and accept the financial statements, bills paid list, and investments for the month and the fiscal year to date into July 31st, 2014.
You've heard the recommendation from Mrs. Cropper. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? I'll second. Discussion? Roll call, Mrs. Cropper?
Mrs. Brinkman,
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn,
Yes.
Mr. Banches,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Waldman.
Yes.
Motion carried. Treasurer's comments, Mrs. Cropper?
That concludes the treasurer's report for this evening. I have no extra comments. Thank
Right,
you.
thank you. Superintendent's business, overnight field trip, Dr. Klein.
Yes, this is the annual field trip that our middle schools take. This is Amelia Middle School's request for our 8th graders to travel to Washington, D.C. in May. A little bit of discrepancy, I apologize on the summary there. They will miss Friday, May 15th. They'll leave out the evening of the 14th, miss that Friday, the 15th, and then they'll be back early morning on Monday, the 18th. So they will miss one day of school, and we're going to wrestle and try to get them to school on that next Monday. There was a question, and I've been working on and asking about why we can't combine our two middle schools and maybe get some price breaks on that trip because both middle schools do take that trip in the spring. One piece that I hadn't thought about that the staff shared with me, we've got about 100 or 100 plus for each middle school that ends up going, and actually putting all of those kids together in one tour group would take them longer to get through the different venues, et cetera, and could possibly cause them to not be able to see as much as what they normally would see. And I understand that if you're out taking about 250 shepherding them through things, it's going to take longer, obviously, than 100, 125 or so. So I was hoping for cost savings on that, but I think that that makes sense, that we're not trying to shepherd all of them through the activities at one time. So with that being said, I'd like to respectfully request that the board approve the Amelia Middle School 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C. in May of 2015.
You've heard the recommendation from Dr. Klein. Do we have a motion?
Move as recommended.
And a second?
Second.
Discussion?
So the dates that we were given are incorrect.
The dates that are on the sheet that was attached, I think is right. The summary doesn't look like it reads on here. They're going to leave May 14th at 9 p.m., and they'll get back early the 18th, which is Monday, in the early morning hours.
And they're going to have to go to school that day?
Well, that's what we're hoping, yes. Whether they will or not, I don't know.
What was their thought process
Yeah.
versus going, excusing them from school on Monday or leaving earlier on Thursday and using Thursday, Friday, because this is academic driven?
I don't disagree. We can work on
How many
flexing
children
those.
do you
I'll
think are
talk
really
with them
going to
about
sleep
flexing.
and then go to school on Monday, and how effective are they going to be?
I don't disagree. We can work on flexing that time.
All right. Any other discussion?
I'm sorry, I missed who's second? Who's second?
Jim Lewis.
Mr. Lewis? Okay.
The other
Thank you.
piece that I do want to bring up with that, however, is that if they do leave at 9 o'clock at night, travel through the night, they got to get there at a time when things are going to be opening, as opposed to, if they left at 4 in the afternoon, they're going to get there at an odd hour, probably not be able to check into a hotel, and certainly nothing would be available for them to go see at
I think in years past,
early
they
morning.
left like at 5 a.m.
Have they? Okay. We can talk about those times with the staff.
Okay.
I think that's probably still workable.
Any other discussion? Roll call, Mrs. Cropper?
Mr. Banges?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Waldman?
Yes.
Motion carried. Personnel, Dr. Klein?
Personnel agenda. You should have gotten an updated hard copy at your seat this evening. The reason we have updated hard copies is that we just closed the deal on a kindergarten teacher. And so we wanted to get that on the agenda so that we can have that person start. Pretty normal items on here. Certified staff, we've got about 3 new folks that we're hiring. We have been looking and monitoring numbers of enrollment throughout the district, particularly in our elementary schools. And that last kindergarten teacher we are bringing in, that you hopefully will approve this evening, will be split between Holly Hill and Amelia Elementary. Their numbers were inching towards 30. Which is really hard to swallow, particularly at the kindergarten level. So we're fortunate we can get somebody in there. That person's probably not going to get much sleep between now and Wednesday morning, but that will help us bring class sizes down significantly in those 2 buildings. Some supplemental contracts for as we move forward this year. Saturday school monitors, and this is a great question Mr. Banches asked me this morning. We have several Saturday school monitors advisors listed. Those are actually detention monitors. We're still using that old title, but they'll be doing Tuesday, Thursday schools. And unfortunately, we still have kids that have detention, and so we need some adults to do that. That creates a pool. Not all of those folks are scheduled on the same day. We pull from that pool as needed to cover those after-school detentions. The rest of it, pretty straightforward. We have school volunteers. We appreciate their help, and some stipend approvals as well. So with that being presented, I respectfully request that the board approve the personnel agenda as presented.
You've heard the recommendation from Dr. Klein. Do we have a motion?
Move as printed.
And a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Just one question. One of these 3 is the new kindergarten teacher, one of the 2 that say elementary level?
Yes, that's the number 3, Lauren Campbell.
Okay.
She'll be at Amelia and Holly Hill.
Both say the same thing. It's like, where's the difference? Okay.
Probably updated it and put it online quickly, but wanted to make sure we had a hard copy.
So,
Affidavit each.
yeah, that person will be at since we're back to half-day kindergarten,
Well,
at 1 in the morning.
I'm comparing it to the board docs, and it's like they're the same.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah, that's why that person just got added about 5 o'clock tonight. We closed the deal. So
Okay.
that's why I gave you a hard copy.
Any other discussion? Roll call, Mrs. Cropper?
Mr. Banches?
Yes.
Mr. Waldman?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
yes,
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn?
Yes. Motion carried. Dr. Klein, superintendent's comments?
Yeah, just a couple of items as we get the school year started. Certainly, I want to welcome Mr. Banches to the board. We had an opportunity to spend some time together on Friday, and I can tell just from those conversations that he is very much focused on what's in the best interest of our kids. And of course, that's what we're all about. So I'm looking forward to working with you as we move forward and doing great things here in West Claremont. So welcome, and thanks for agreeing to step up. I appreciate that. We do want to, as we start the new school year, I was fortunate I got out to almost all of the buildings today and got to go room to room and welcome our teachers back. A lot of excitement and enthusiasm, even though some of our buildings were getting a little warm today, but they were working hard to getting the rooms ready, and we're ready to take off here on Wednesday when our students show up. We are going to, and we'll talk a little bit more about district goals when we get back together in September, but the big focus that we really need to get ourselves into a laser perspective on is teaching and learning. We've spent a lot of time doing a lot of other things, and really that's our core business, is teaching and learning. And how do we provide the best instruction that we can for our students and make sure that they are being successful and reaching new heights as far as their educational background is concerned. So we've got a lot of work to do academically, but I can say that I think we're in a good place and the folks are primed and ready to jump in. We've got to raise expectations, not just for our students, but our staff, and that's really going to be our major focus as we move forward in 2014 and 15. A lot of work to do, but it's exciting work, and that's why we're here. So I don't mind that a bit. Just a reminder, last time we were together, we talked about ALICE training. That will be taking place tomorrow morning at Glen Estee High School. All of our buildings will be closed from 8 to noon so that all of the staff can participate in that. Mr. Dyer and the District Safety Committee has done a great job of getting that organized. We're expecting with all of our support staff, we're probably going to be pushing 800 people tomorrow. That's a lot of folks to train and get moved to the right places and all those things. So we're ready to go. We want to thank local law enforcement, both Union Township and the Claremont County Sheriff's Department for participating in the training tomorrow as well. So we're excited about that. It'll be an exciting day for our staff. So we're looking forward to it.
Now, are you including the custodial staff and the kitchen staff and everybody in that training?
We are. Some folks are not. That's not a contracted day for some, but we do have all of our head custodians are participating. We've invited the cooks. If it's not a work day for them, we've invited them to participate, and I expect that many will.
Okay.
But everyone else, unless they're still enrolling kids downstairs, which I know we are, they're expected to be in attendance for that. Yeah. The last thing, school starting back, I really do need to, and part of my running around today and looking in buildings was not just to greet our staff and welcome them back, but also to take a look at our buildings. And I have to say that our custodial staff and our maintenance crew, under the guidance of Mr. Dyer, has done an exceptional job in getting our buildings ready. Things look great, and we're ready to go. We're excited about getting the doors open and getting our kiddos back. So.
Is the roof done at Glen Estee?
The roof is done at Glen Estee. There's still some pennants up there that is marking things off, but yeah, the roof is ready to go, and hopefully our kids won't get rained on anymore. We're looking forward to that too. So I would invite any of the board members, if you're available tomorrow morning, we're going to meet in the Glen Estee Performing Arts Center at 8. If you're available, that would be great, and certainly if you want to participate in ALICE training, you're more than welcome to do that as well. So that being said, I think that's it for superintendent's comments tonight.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Board business, board comments.
Can you get that up, Mrs.
Sure.
Cropper? Question about numbers I passed out or mentioned earlier, and I'm sorry, I had the wrong website. It's not on the CUP report. It's off the OhioHigherEd.org. It's another Ohio education website. The numbers I was using were from 2010, 2011 school year, where we were running 35% of our students going to an Ohio higher education facility requiring remedial math, English, or both. We've had the best year since figures are available this year, this past year, not past year, but these were 2012 students that would have gone matriculated at a higher education in 2013. These are the latest numbers we have, and 30% is still unacceptable, 3 out of every 10. And if you look down there through the list, the state average has remained pretty constant, 41%. Ours has fluctuated from as low of 30 to a high of 44. It's usually been in the upper 30s. And no matter how you cut it, it's not acceptable that students leave this building with a diploma saying, I've graduated, and they go to college, and better than a third of them most of the time have to take remedial math, English, or both. And I don't care if the number was slightly off or I had the wrong website, this is still unacceptable, and it's something we need to be working on. Was just at a meeting today where Andy Thompson and Representative Hoffman have introduced HB 597, which will repeal Common Core. We will use, for the next 2 years, we will revert to the pre-Common Core Massachusetts standards for the state and give the state ODE time to develop Ohio standards based on the Massachusetts standards, which were the best in the nation until they made the mistake of going to Common Core, and they've seen their results go down because of it. And they'll give us a chance to start with a good baseline instead of something totally untested. And if we implement something like what Massachusetts has, we should see those numbers drop, hopefully, if our teachers are doing their job. They were also concerned with the third grade testing. There were supposed to be 20 people testifying, and I only stayed for 2 because it was 2 hours. They had only 2 people testify. Some of the inane questions from some of the people supporting Common Core in the committee. But they're concerned about the problems of the third grade testing, reading guarantee. And one teacher was very, very adamant about the fact we need to return that to our local school districts to handle and not psych these kids out. I mean, the kids, I know that we've lost one person I know in this district because of the emphasis in one of our elementaries on testing went to New Richmond because it's not so, the stress isn't there. But this is statewide and it's unnecessary.
Can I ask you a few questions about this? And I'm not shooting down the credibility of the information because I don't know the source. But when you say, when the spreadsheet says West Claremont, the number of students in 2012 says 211, we have more than that.
That's the number of students that went to college from West Claremont to a college in Ohio.
Okay.
These are not the number of graduating
I was going to say, because that's
Yeah.
half the amount of graduates we have.
These are the students that are matriculating in Ohio at higher education. It breaks it out, and it's like, it ranges from somewhere around 90% to a real college to, to maybe 92 or 3% to a real college versus a community college. But these are across the board, whether they're going to community college or a 4-year college, these are the numbers of people that actually attended from that graduating class in Ohio. They don't measure somebody that goes to, UCLA or Harvard or anybody like that. They could go out of the state. This is only people that graduated from an Ohio school that go to an Ohio college.
So the numbers are flawed. Because there's a lot of students that, like for my son, he's going to a school in Kentucky.
Yeah.
He would not be in that statistic.
No.
Okay.
That doesn't necessarily mean that they're, just because they're going out of state. I mean, we got people that go to
See,
more.
that number's irrelevant then. I mean, if that's not a full representation of what we've got going to college, I appreciate the numbers. However, if it doesn't represent, it's not a good representation of what we have, we can't lend a lot of merit to it.
Well, I would say that most likely this is the bulk of the kids going to college. And just because they leave the state doesn't mean they're going to a good college in the state.
No.
Out of state.
But what I'm saying is that if that represents, let's just say 50% stay in state and 50% go out of state. And let's say the 50% that go out of state because they got good scholarships, because of whatever the statistic is, those numbers are skewed because they've not taken into consideration the other numbers.
There's no way they're 50%. This is not even close to half of this is not even anywhere near as low as half the students going to college out of state, because this is close to half of the number of kids we have graduating, and more than half of them aren't going to college.
Is that half?
It's about a third.
A third.
It's about a third.
Yeah,
We have over 600 between the 2 high schools.
yeah. So I would like to think that more than a third are going to college of some sort. But that's not considering anybody who's going to trade school, correct? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
My guess is probably not. It probably, just looking at 2- and 4-year institutions
Okay.
would be my guess.
And what was the
I don't know
site
where
that you
those
got that
numbers
from?
came from, so.
OhioHigherEd.org.
Ohio what?
OhioHigherEd.org.
On the plus side, it trends in the right direction.
I was going to say that same thing. Good observation.
It's somewhat trending. The last 2 years have trended down.
As I mentioned, our goal is teaching, our focus is teaching and learning, and that's, we can always do better, as can every district in the state of Ohio and across the country. So I'm looking forward to working with our staff in order to move the ball. We need to do that, and we need to do it quick.
I wanted to mention that I went to both of the Meet the Teams nights the other night at both Amelia and Glen Estee, and both of the campuses had a great representation. I like to see more athletes than we did last year. You were telling me that on Amelia's football team, they probably have 25 to 30 more children enrolled than they had last year, which tends to show that removing the pay-to-play, or not removing it, but reducing it down to $250 absolutely is appreciated by the community. So glad to see all those athletes out there.
Yeah. If I could add on, I do have the numbers from Amelia, and it's about 70 additional kids last year versus this year have come out. And again, remember, we're talking about one season right now. I'm hopeful that that trend will continue as we go into winter and spring. I don't have our numbers back from Glen Estee. The increases are a little bit more moderate than they are at Amelia. But good news is, my guess is we're probably in the ballpark of about 100 more kids that are able to come out and participate, which is exactly what we had intended. We were hoping for that.
I also liked to mention that there was in the past tennis teams of 3 or 4 children that now have 9 or 10, which is great for them because then they're able to field a little bit more of a competitive team, or they've got kids that wanted to play tennis but couldn't because they could only afford one sport. So I think that we've done a great job for the kids.
Absolutely. It was exciting to see kids again, quite honestly.
Do we have a chart that can show what we've had in the past, like maybe from
Yeah.
2008 forward?
Yeah,
That'd be interesting to see that, to see where we are now
Yeah, I can
versus
pull
where we were then.
We can pull some numbers for that, yes.
Okay.
And on both sides of the campus, our first home football, or I'm sorry, not home, our first football game is the competition between the 2 high schools?
It
that correct?
is, yes. That'll be taking place on the 28th, is it 28th, 29th? First
29th.
Friday, yeah, 29th. It was hosted by Amelia this year, and Mrs. Walker has promised me that she will outdo what we did at Glen Estee last year as far as the tailgate party, for the lack of a better term, prior to the game. So we're going to have some festivities starting at 5:30 prior to the game, and then the kickoff is at 7 o'clock. Great community event. I'm sure the weather will be great, and good to see our kids going at it on the field. Our kids are always great. They handle the whole competition thing well, and it's fun to see them. So looking forward to it. And I would go neutral, color-wise.
So you're not going to do like Dr. Brooks did and one purple shoe?
Yeah,
and one
I'm
blue
trying to find a shirt that's got blue and purple in it.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of those out there, but we'll work on the wardrobe. We'll work on the wardrobe.
Any other discussion? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
All right. Roll call, Mrs. Cropper?
Mr. Lewis,
Yes?
Mrs. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Waldman,
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn,
Yes.
Mr. Banches.
Motion carried.